is, am I going to be on time? The answer to that is yes, strangely enough. Also, I may actually be a little echoey during the stream, and if that is the case, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, it's not really anything I can help at the moment. As you can see, there's a lot of green behind me. This is my new studio. It is not complete. My lighting is not complete. My posters are not up. Nothing is moved in. But we have internet now, which is something we didn't have before. So that's neat. So, in an ideal world, I will maintain being on time, at least some semblance of that in the near future. Probably not. I'm actually horrible at that. So I'm probably not going to be able to be on time ever again. This is only happening the one time. I do see some familiar faces in chat, which is cool. I see Blue Collar Heathen. I see Gaelic Nox, which is cool. I see Lisa for Truth. Who's a pretty good channel as well. I see Haberjog Gaming, amongst other people. Also, Purple Rhymes with Orange, who is awesome. And suddenly, there was a thing that I just got that I heard. Thank you, Tekken, or Takken, for subscribing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm probably not. I'm horrible at this. I'm not a very good YouTuber. Also, now that I actually am able to be live in my own studio again, that means we have the return of the real Cirrus, according to all of you. So there's that. It is me now. That all said. Whew. Stomach is not doing great things to me. Let me go ahead and do that thing where I drink tea so I can actually go ahead and do things. Still have to thank Sloth Girl Slowly for that plush. It is coming very, very, very useful over time. So, what has been going on lately, and why have I not been uploading all that often? I've only been able to upload a video on Steven Crowder, a video on No Bullshit, and then the live stream with Vosh, and that's about it in the past length of time. The reason for that, unfortunately, is because we just moved. We had to do hotel hopping while the house was being finished. Then when the house was finished, we had no AC, so I couldn't turn my computer on. Then when we finally had AC, we didn't have internet, so we had to get internet turned on. Turns out we didn't have enough money for internet because I grossly underestimated the amount of money that we would need for moving. I thought that the $1,500 goal that I put up for my fundraiser would be plenty. I was freaking wrong, it turns out. So luckily I did get some help with that from Astro Frontier, who's awesome. So thank you for that. So yeah, turns out Cirrus is horrible at estimating finances, and he grossly underestimates the amount of crap that goes into moving, and the amount of extra money that is spent when you don't have access to a working fridge, and therefore can't rely on making ramen or other cheap groceries. You have to eat out all the time. Yeah, no, not fun and not great, but here we are. Anywho, I did want to go ahead and thank everyone who did donate whenever I was doing my couple of fundraisers to make enough money to move here, even though I am an idiot and grossly underestimated the amount that I needed. I do not want that to undermine the help that you have all given me, which has been immense. Trust me, this wouldn't have been a thing that could have happened if you guys had not helped. Some of you are a little more aware of my financial situation than others, and that's fine. So, that all said, back to away from the dumb stuff, away from the silly stuff that nobody cares about, into the actual fun stuff. Live chat is missing from stream. Let me see if I can't fix that for you real quick. I should be able to. Where are you? Browser source. Dude. Maybe it'll work. Maybe. Just maybe. Should be able to work just fine. I guess it's just broken. Live chat's just broken. I don't know how to fix. Let me see if Restream chat works. Because I might have to pull that up. And yeah, Neil Stone in the chat. I was surprised by some of Hunter's tweets as well. They actually showed a level of restraint. Is that the word we're looking for? humanity. It was interesting. I was actually quite happy to see them. But let's see, a new version of Restream Chat is available. No, I do not want to install that. Not in the slightest. Anywho, hello, Cyrus. Will the plushie one be here? Plushie one is already here. Plushie is here. Although we all do understand that plushie Cyrus is always here in our hearts, so it doesn't matter. You know, the live chat is working as far as like YouTube's live chat. It's the live chat should also be working on Periscope. It should also be working on Twitch. By the way, links to Twitch and Periscope and everything else that I stream on are all in the description below. If you guys can go follow me on those as well, that would be great, because there's always that chance that YouTube will screw me. I would hate for that to happen, and if that happened, I would be very sad. But it's a thing that can happen. A couple of friends of mine have had it happen to them already, and I wasn't terribly happy when it happened to them. So do go ahead and follow my Twitch and Periscope and other places as well. Although, until YouTube decides that it wants to screw me, my primary place of streaming will be here. So, that's fine. I'm going to see why the Restream chat is not working. Because it should be fine. And it should be functioning, and it should be working. But apparently, if it is not, then things are awkward. Gaelic Knox is hiding in the Twitch chat, but that's fine, because even if you're hiding in the Twitch chat, I can see you. Okay, so that is all working perfectly well. Why is Restream not allowing me to grab from other stuff? Because I would like very much to actually grab my chat. That would be cool. Why are you not working? Analytics. It's not what I want. Why can I not grab this? If anybody here is familiar with Restream and might be able to help me out with this, because obviously I am not doing very well. I am not doing well at all. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm here and trying. Not that that's really that useful. So I have no idea why that's not working. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I guess it doesn't have to make sense to me. It just has to be broken, which is great. I'm assuming that, especially when I did the Voss stream, all of you were perfectly happy watching me suffer and not be able to actually get technology to work for me, which was cool. I enjoyed not being able to do anything on there as well. Oh, great. I'm so glad that my stuff is broken. We're just going to do this without a chat. It's going to be fine. I can see you guys. You can see me. It'll be all right. Tony Design says software is magic. You have to make a sacrifice and do a ritual. That's true. You're not wrong. Anywho, what is on the docket for today? So the first thing is I want to live stream more. That does not mean that I'm going to stop doing my edited videos. I still want to do 2 to 3 edited videos a week, starting next week, because obviously I'm starting in the middle of this week, so that's going to be hard to do. Secondly, because I want to do more live streams, I want to do some varied stuff. So I'm probably going to do something like this, and I did want to get your guys' input. I want to do some video game live streams on my channel. However, the actual content of the video game live streams will not be on my channel once it concludes. That way, if anybody's going through my channel afterwards trying to binge content, they will not randomly hit a League of Legends stream or a Gungeon stream or a World of Warcraft stream. They won't randomly hit one of those while also trying to go through my content that actually functions as content. But I figured that it's something different that you guys can engage with, and it means that anytime that I'm doing something for my own leisure time, I can use it as a stream and maybe give you guys some kind of entertainment as well, especially since that will hopefully mean that I'm on my channel more since I've been so absent in the last few weeks, which has sucked. I've not been a fan of not being able to be here. Purple Rhymes with Orange says, I'm not saying Cyrus is sexually attracted to pumpkins. I'm just saying I don't know. Speaking of pumpkins, you know what? Gaelic Knox is in the chat. Gaelic Knox, would you like me to do a reveal of a thing? If not, I won't. But if you're okay with me doing a reveal of a thing, I will do a reveal of a thing, and it will be fun. But again, if not, then I can deal with that. I do that. I feel like nobody wants to watch games not live. Yeah, and that's fair. Separate archive channel for the video games, maybe. I can archive everything onto Sura/Gaming. I already have the Sura/Gaming channel, so I could definitely just archive the stuff onto there if that's what you guys prefer. And Emmett says that it's okay for me to do the thing, so we're going to do the thing. Oh, no. God, no. I've made several mistakes. Stop it. Stop it. There we are. Okay. So, here's the thing we're going to do. We're going to give you guys a little bit of a window display. Maybe show a little bit of the magic of live streaming and why sometimes things get weird. But I need Chrome, Pumpkins, Google Drive. Boom! So, Emmett, Gaelic Knox, has a plan to create these pumpkins that are themed in the various ways that the GSRM community or the LGBTQ plus community are framed, depending on which acronym you wish to use. Me and a few others are starting to feel like GSRM maybe has a little bit more utility. For those who are not aware, GSRM is an acronym not unlike LGBTQ, but it stands for gender, sexual, and romantic minorities. So it does a few things that I like. It means it allows for anybody who happens to fall into a gendered or a sexuality minority to have representation there. And because it has every minority in there, it already automatically takes care of non-binary people, ace people, trans people, lesbian, gay, etc. And it does another thing. It prevents allies from being part of the acronym because I've had this conversation a few times. I think that allies are more useful to the LGBT community as people who are not part of the community, because you cannot be part of an oppressed people by virtue of supporting them. That's not how that works. So, GSRM also makes sure that allies are a separate category as per part of the definition, which I like, which is helpful because, again, I think allyship is useful in that you are separate and also helping and advocating and doing everything that you're supposed to do. So, that said, I do like that acronym. I think I am going to try using that acronym a little more often than I normally would. So there's that. Anywho, moving on. Now that we've gotten my personal thoughts out of the way. Also, my back is hurting a lot because this chair is not terribly comfortable. So ideally, in the next few weeks, I'll be able to afford replacing this with an actual gaming race car chair. One of the ones that has the support back pillow and the support for the neck and has the ergonomic braces that can go up and down. I would really like one of those. Two of them technically, because Raz is going to be working from home, so it's going to be equally useful for her as well. But something like that would be great. I'm going to figure out when I can afford doing that. I don't know when, but when we get to that point, that'll be awesome. Anywho, going into these, this is a transgender pumpkin pin, and this is from Gaelic Knox, Emmett. The next one, she's also my channel artist, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Most of you should know that by now if you're part of my channel or you've been on my channel for any amount of time. This is common knowledge. Seth Martin, suppressed, I'm not oppressed, oppressed, suppressed, but not oppressed. You've moved so I can do the thing now. Yeah, fair enough. So the next one we have is polysexual pride, not to be confused with polyamorous pride, which is this one. For those who don't know, a polysexual is somebody who finds themselves attracted to a particular cluster of things. For instance, a polysexual person may be attracted to a few things like a cis male, whilst also being attracted to a male-presenting female who does not identify as a male, while also being attracted to essentially many other possible sexual orientations and gender classifications that somebody might be. Polysexual is somebody who likes a certain number of them, but not all. So it's a useful distinction. Typically, you're going to find that no two polysexuals have the same attractions. Polyamorous, obviously, which is me. Pansexual, which is what Raz is. Pansexual, obviously, not being bisexual. Very different things, even though most oft confused. Atheist says this is really get confusing if it goes till the end of October. It could. Non-binary pride, neutralis pride, lesbian pride, intersex pride, homosexual pride, genderqueer pride, gender fluid, demi-girl, demi-boy, bisexual, asexual, aromantic, androgen, and I am out of pins to show, but these were all created by the wonderful Emmett or Gaelic Knox. So, in an ideal world, also I see Sloth Girl Slowly is in the chat, which is awesome because Sloth Girl, I wanted to thank you again for the plushie Cirrus. This has become one of the most useful props on my channel ever. This is second only to the actual hammer of the channel, which is the most important prop. Plushie Cirrus is second only to the hammer. So I am, not to say that the other hammer isn't part of that. So I do want to thank you for that. But that all said, these are awesome. These were created by Gaelic Knox, and hopefully at some point we can figure out a way to turn these into actual pins, especially because we're not really certain if Tommy McMurtry is sexually attracted to pumpkins. We don't really know, but, we should ask him. We really should ask him, and then we might be able to get a definitive answer on that. He dared to call the real Cirrus a prop. So, if we can figure out a way to get those turned into pins and then sold, and possibly, I believe, Gaelic Knox was wanting to donate a portion, if not all of the money that went there, to a particular charity. That is a thing that she wants to do, and if that is the case, then awesome. But we'll keep you guys updated on this channel and on her channel and mostly on her Twitter. Which her Twitter information, amongst other things, should be in the description below, as with everything else. So yes, please, go support her over there. She's awesome. She's also the reason you guys get fancy animations on my channel. Like this one. This is an animation that you would not have if not for Gaelic Knox. Or this one, which is totally not my subliminal way of saying please support me on Patreon. But no, those would not exist if not for the wonderful Gaelic Knox. So, just figured I'd go ahead and throw that out there. Gaelic Knox says that I wish to donate all the proceeds to an LGBTQ charity in light of all of this, which is awesome. So, let's get into the topic at hand today. We have a few videos I want to go through, and I do want to make some of these live streams specifically a way to get through my backlog of video suggestions, because you guys do suggest a decent number of videos to me on Discord, and I do look at most of those. I do not look at all of them because sometimes there's just a backlog there and I can't get through them all. And sometimes they're not on the schedule or the docket of the things that I'm planning on doing throughout the week. But this might be a way for me to play catch up and also hang out with you guys, especially since these are... Atheist says Cirrus is all high tech now. Awesome. Yeah, no, it's great. Also, we didn't get to talk terribly much after Faithless Forum. I saw you walking out of the bar and wasn't able to catch you, which makes me really sad, Jim. So maybe next time that I'm in Texas, we can do something. But that all said, the next thing that I want to get into, now that we have gone over the pumpkins, which are totally not associated with Tommy McMurtry, not at all, but they are there and they are neat. Hey, men are apparently attracted to the smell of pumpkin and lavender. Why would Tommy be any different? Ooh, burn. Okay. So the first video we have here is one that was on my video suggestions, and it is called How to Use a Pendulum. Apparently, it is a guide of sorts for healing crystals of a particular variety. I have not seen the video, but we will look at it live and see what we can see. Atheist says, I know, man, it hurt my heart to have missed you and Kate, At the after party, we were so busy with interviews. Yeah, dude, me and Bionic Dance were sitting at the same table. You would have killed 2 birds with 1 stone just walking over there. Drug worker says I'm ready for woo. Yeah, no, it's woo time. It is woo time. And let us begin. Let me know if the audio levels are good, by the way. I know we had some issues during the Voss stream. Also, I'd like to point out that this is a 15K subscriber channel, so they have about the same number of subscribers that I do. Yet for some reason, this video only has 910 views. I don't know why that is. I panic if a video of mine hits less than 1,000 views on any given day, because that means that I put in a bunch of work into a video to get like $3. Just so you guys know how ad revenue works, 1,000 views on a YouTube video is about $2 to $3. $5 if it's a long one, but you're usually looking at 2 to 3. So yeah, no. If I got 910 views on a video, I would panic.
Hey guys, today's video is going to be about how to use a pendulum. Now, a pendulum works by using the Earth's magnetic field.
Hold on. This is a video about how to use a pendulum. Okay. So, I do have to ask, and this is very important. I need to find it. Where do I have it? I know I have it here somewhere. So this is a video on how to use a pendulum. I would be remiss if I did not ask what type of pendulum she was talking about. Because when I think of a pendulum, this is what immediately comes to mind. When I think of a pendulum, I think of this. This is a pendulum monster for Yu-Gi-Oh! So, please make sure that we're not talking about these guys. Because, like, pendulum monsters are neat, and they're not woo. So, if it's something like that, then that would be cool. But if it's woo, I'm going to be very disappointed.
And it also uses your higher self for guidance and intuition. A pendulum is basically a crystal that's on a chain. And this one I have right here is an amethyst. I'll try and get it in focus, but I'm not sure how much it'll focus. So,
okay.
This one I got basically from an esoteric store. You can usually find them for like $10 on Etsy. They're not really that expensive. But they're used for divination, which basically means that they're used to show you truths or lessons or ideas from the spirit realm.
From the spirit. So, first of all, I'd have to ask, why did you put it in quotation marks? If it's from the spirit realm, if I say something's from the spirit realm and I do it like this, then everybody knows that what I'm saying is bullshit. So mayhap, if you're trying to convince your audience that this is a real thing, don't say from the spirit realm, because then we just assume you're being facetious. That's what that means. Secondly, if I were, and I see that somebody said in the chat, that's not the crystal I'm focused on. Haha. So, secondly, if I had like a piece of jade or something, like that would be neat to wear around my neck, but only because my favorite color is green. Gee, I wonder what I painted my fucking studio. No idea. That's something that I might wear because I think that it's neat and I think it's cool. But there's nothing about that particular stone that is going to affect anything in my life, aside from maybe increasing my happiness a little bit because I'm seeing something that's green, and that's, of course, my favorite color. So, we don't know. Air quotes equals tacit acknowledgement that she knows she's full of shite. Fair. So, you know, it's not actually going to affect anything in any meaningful way. I just want to throw that out there now, but we'll continue her video and see what she says about them.
So this pendulum is amethyst, which means it's really connected to my crown chakra. That's why.
Oh boy. Let's do some Googling. So the crown chakra is apparently the 7th chakra, and it's located at the top of the head. Of course, that's why it's called the crown chakra. The root or first chakra connects to Mother Earth at your feet. Crown chakra is your connection to the universe. It's the 7th chakra. It dispenses universal energy. or life force into the 6 other chakra located below it, so it's the most important one. So, maybe it's terrible for me to make a joke here, but there is a way to disperse things from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Your body does it all the time. It's called blood circulation. Now, that will actually be halted if you use a rock, like you have in your hand, against your head hard enough. If I was bricked in the head, I would probably die. That wouldn't work very well for me. But that's not what she's talking about. She's talking about this in more of a spiritual sense. In which case, now nothing will happen. There is an energy transfer from the head down to everything else. Your brain is firing synapses to make shit happen. That's about it. The rock isn't doing anything for you.
I got it because your crown chakra is really powerful and it will definitely help with divination. So it's just pointed downward. And
Purple Rhymes with Orange says, is there a specific shade of green that is best for green screening? A good lime green is the best you can do. Like, a good lime green will do you very well because it's nice and it's bright, and I hate the way it looks. It's a horrible color, but it's very useful for green screening. You do release a lot of heat from your hands and feet. This is true. Or from your head and feet. Is there any science to chakras that you may believe in? Science and chakras do not go in the same sentence. This is the thing. Chakras are a pseudoscience. That is from Sarah Gardner. I wish that... So it sucks because, like, I wish I lived in a world where this stuff was true. Because I'm a huge fan of anime. I'm a huge fan of things like Dragon Ball Z, Full Metal Alchemist, even stuff like Kill la Kill, which is a little more out there and the physics are wonky. But, like, I'm a big fan of stuff like that. So if I could live in a world where this stuff was real, I would jump into it immediately. Kadama says, why the fuck do Westerners say there are more than one chakra? A chakra is a combination of mental and physical energy. You know, for some reason, there's this idea in the... So, there's a thing in Western society where we glorify the wisdom of the East. We glorify Eastern society. Because it has a mystical nature to us, even though if we were in Eastern society, there may be something about the Western society that we see as somewhat mystical. I don't know, because I'm not in that society, but there is a certain bit of Eastern mysticism that happens in the United States specifically. As a result, there are many misconceptions that get brought out. One of them is a misconception of how chakra works, or chakra is supposed to work. As far as I am aware, and as far as I can tell, chakra does not work. Sarah Gardner says, do you believe in energy healing or manipulation? Not necessarily. So when it comes to energy manipulation, the closest I've seen to something that is legitimate is a select few people who've been able to heat up their hands, for instance. But I don't know how much legitimacy there is in that still. I just know that it's the closest to a claim that I think has efficacy. As far as... let me move up a little more. Sarah, she said, amethyst, we are the crystal gems. Yes. As far as energy healing, I know for a fact that does not work, except insofar as placebo works. It's something that just in general does not function. I covered this when I did my video on Dangers of Woo for crystal healing. The efficacy of crystal healing is that there isn't any. The studies that we have done have shown that they work exactly at the rate of chance and exactly at the rate that we find when we have only sugar-pilled placebo control groups. When you mirror sugar-pilled placebo control groups, you are working in the same way that a sugar pill or a placebo control group works, and that you are not working at all. Granted, that is not to say that there is not medical efficacy to the placebo effect, but that means that the healing itself could work with a sugar pill just as well. Like, anything can trigger the placebo effect. It's a very strange phenomenon that we do not entirely understand, but we do control for it as a variable when we do tests. So there is that. If it is something that you feel like you desperately need to control your anxiety, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I literally have a stuffed shiny Vaporeon that I use for controlling my anxiety because I used to have crippling anxiety attacks that would lead to spiraling depression. And a friend of mine told me that finding a grounder was the best way to go about dealing with that. So that is now my go-to, and that prevents me from spiraling. And if I'm perfectly honest, it has kept me from trying to kill myself a few times, because that's a thing that happened a long time ago. Luckily, I'm past that dark portion of my life, but that's a thing that helped me get out of there. If it's a thing that you need for your mental health, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. What I am going to say, though, is do I think there's any efficacy in it? No, not past placebo, in the same way that the grounder doesn't really have any effect past its placebo effect to ground me. TivaTubeMe says, what is a grounder? A grounder is just something for, like, if you suffer from anxiety, you can feel when an anxiety attack is coming. You know that it's happening. A grounder is something that when you clutch it, it will calm that down, or it can calm that down. It's not 100% effective, but it's a lot like holding a loved one when you feel like you're going to have an anxiety attack to calm yourself down. It serves the same purpose. Also, Sloth Girl Slowly says, what do you feel about CBD oil? It depends on what for. So, sorry, getting thirsty. So CBD oil is this weird thing that there are people who treat it the same way that someone would treat woo, in that they hold it in high regard and say that CBD oil will cure anything. CBD oil could cure cancer. CBD oil is used for this. CBD oil is used for that. Use it to kill bacteria. Use it to do multitude of things. And I feel when people advocate for it in that way, it's very dangerous, because I'm sorry, if you have a cancerous tumor and you drop CBD oil onto it, it's not going to shrink the tumor. It's from everything that I have learned and the studies that I've read, there are a few instances where CBD oil can help, but it's not going to get rid of it. So, but there are people who advocate for its efficacy in that realm still, even though it doesn't seem to have much. However, there are things that it does help with. For instance, PTSD. Because cannabinoids can do a lot for calming you down, for PTSD and anxiety, CBD is pretty good. It helps in that regard, because it literally is going to calm you down. It's going to do what... Let's face it, pot's going to do what pot does. Not that CBD oil is the same thing, but it's derivative from the same plant. But yeah, using it for something like depression, anxiety, pain relief, go ahead. I don't care. Do with your body what you want, especially if it helps you. If it's something that helps you get through this world, do it. Like, that's a good thing. CBD oil and the marijuana for cancer is only good to restore appetite when going through chemotherapy. Yeah, that's actually one of the things it could be used for. Because it does come with a with a little bit of appetite from it. I don't particularly use it personally. It's just me, personal choice. But I do have many friends who do, and late night pizza binges were a thing for them. Petting kitties help stress and anxiety, especially if they purr, as the sound is very soothing. Agreed. I say this whilst I have two kitties over here. Speaking of the kitties. So Gigi is over here. She's my 8-year-old cat that I've had since she was a youngin'. And then we have Yumi, the orange rescue kitty that we mentioned on stream a long time ago. Right after a Hammered Out episode, right before the Georgia abortion bill episode. Turns out she was pregnant. We found that out this morning. Turns out she just miscarried. That was not a fun thing to wake up to this morning. But that is fine, because she was not eating before. We were having to actually feed her through a syringe. And she is now eating on her own now that she is no longer pregnant. So, silver lining, I guess. Please show the kitties. They're both sleeping, but I will gladly grab them. Gigi, you have been requested. Over here. I know. You're grumpy. This is Gigi. She is one of the cats that is here with me today. The other, Baba is sleeping with Aaron, and the other two are sleeping with Raz. But this is the Gigi. She says hello. She's a good girl. She is. And she's going to go do her own thing now. I guess she's going to... Okay, I guess I've just got to guess now. I don't want to wake up Yumi at the moment. Especially because now that Gigi's here, I think I'm just going to keep her here. Which is good. Kitty guest. No, she's a cutie. She's a good kitty. She has been with me for a good portion of my life. Okay. Now back to the woo.
Basically how you use it is you have to clear your mind first and get all distractions away from your mind. It's kind of like being in a meditative state.
And that meditative state would function with or without the pendulum.
But it's a very cleared out state, so you have to clear yourself out mentally. And what you do is you ask it a question. So let's say I want to know something like, am I going to get the job tomorrow?
This functionally what works with a magic 8-ball as well. Okay. This is the problem that I find with stuff like this, is that this will function with anything. This is not strictly to crystals. Any inanimate object will do.
I would ask the pendulum the question. It'd be a yes or no question. You can't ask it anything complicated because it can only do yes or no, really.
Why is that, though? Why can it not answer an open-ended question? Is it because that would require you personally to think of the answer to the open-ended question as opposed to your brain easily flipping the coin? Because if that's the case, then we know that the efficacy is literally none.
So...
Also, Neil Stone says, is hypnotherapy real? In a sense, from what I understand, hypnotherapy is real. It's not the same thing as like shown in cartoons where like hypnosis means that someone takes control of your mind. It's just putting yourself in a mental state where you are very open to suggestion, and then people suggest you do things. As a result, we find that people under hypnosis will not do something that they did not want to do otherwise. So, for instance, if they said, hey, under hypnosis, I want you to go punch that other member of the audience. If you did not personally want to punch that member of the audience, you would not go do so immediately, just because you didn't want to do it. But if it was something you already wanted to do, you might. But you still have full control over your body, and you can break out of it at any point. It's just the act of being very, very submissive and very, very open to suggestion. I would say it's not dissimilar if you're part of the BDSM community to being in substate. If you are in substate, it's not terribly different from what I understand.
So you ask it, am I going to get the job tomorrow? And the pendulum will either swing in a certain direction. So first you have to prime the pendulum by asking the pendulum, show me yes or show me no. Because then you'll know which way it's swinging for yes, and then which way it's swinging for no. Does that make sense?
No.
So I'm going to show you guys that the pendulum swings completely on its own based on what I'm saying, and not because my arm is moving or anything like that.
This is going to be interesting.
And I think this is the coolest part of a pendulum because it literally moves on its own. So for people who don't really believe in crystals or like crystal magic or things like that, I think this is a pretty cool example of something working like that. So I'm just gonna cut the feed and just set this up so you guys can see it more closely, so just give me a second. Alright, so I'm just gonna hold it like this, and I'm not gonna move my arm.
You are literally moving your arm.
And I'm going to say, show me yes. Show me yes. Show me yes.
You are literally moving your arm.
Me yes.
You are.
Now, as you can see, the pendulum is moving left to right.
You are literally fucking moving your arm.
I did not move my arm to get this result.
You are.
Okay, now show me.
I am watching you move your goddamn arm. What? Why? I'm not gonna move my arm. Moves it like a motherfucker.
No. Show me no. Okay, now the pendulum is swinging back and forth.
Have you noticed in this? Okay, watch how much her arm moves with yes.
Show me yes.
Okay, and a good visual aid for this would be taking a look here at the little flower / loofah that she has here. Look at the space between it and the pearl.
Show me yes. Now, as you can see, the pendulum is moving left to right.
You can see very clearly that she moves where the pearls go here, and then the pearls go way over here.
Moving my arm, I did not move my arm to get this result.
Okay.
Now show me no.
Okay, now when she says show me no, watch how much her arm moves
now
instead.
The pendulum is swinging back and forth.
Okay, so you notice how it's moving much less?
Is that, guys?
That is because if I'm moving my arm left and right, you can see a very easy variable of distance. I'm moving it 1 inch to the left, 1 inch to the right. But if I move it forward and backwards, the variable of distance, because of your perspective, looks smaller, even though I'm moving it the exact same amount. I'm moving it 1 inch back, 1 inch forward. That variable of distance is only based on perspective. Were I looking at this from the side, the variable of distance would be flopped. So, Nailstone, yes, it actually does hurt my brain. It's very easy to tell how it got to the point where it was moving back and forth, and it's very easy to tell how it's moving forward and back.
And that's no. Just going to ask it a simple question. Pendulum, is my name Megan? And see if it moves. So yeah, it moves
literally
left and right.
She's literally moving her arm, though.
My name is Megan.
Look at the arm move.
It's kind of hard to hold my arms super straight. Okay, hold on. Your higher self knows things before you know them because it's on a different plane of existence. So when you're...
No, the plane of there's something on a different plane of existence right now, but it is not that rock.
In the fifth dimension, you can obviously see...
In the fifth dimension. In the fifth dimension. Okay, cool. So, does anyone here actually like understand on just a basic level how dimensional space works? Right? Because dimensional space is a pretty decent... it's a mathematical idea, right? We have a concept of three-dimensional spaces, where my ability to rotate around is because I'm in a three-dimensional space. Were I in a two-dimensional space, I could move forward and back, and that's it. And then a one-dimensional space would be one that involves no movement, because there's no lateral movement in a one-dimensional space. A five-dimensional space, therefore, would be a place where you could move in 5 dimensions, which is an idea that we can't actually grapple with in our head outside of something like mathematics. And even then, it seems to be that we really only have math that can point to like a 4th-dimensional space. It's a mathematical extension of the concept of 3D spaces. So, when you say that something is going into the 5th dimension, you're saying it's going into a realm that we cannot understand conceptually as people. It is the nature of me as a being who exists in a 3-dimensional space to only understand that 3-dimensional space. Time would be the thing that lets us work in a 4th dimension, I believe. But again, those are all things that I understand because this is the space that I find myself in. I would not be able to understand a 5th dimensional space, just like I would not be able to understand existence in a 1-dimensional space. I couldn't comprehend it. I can't comprehend existence in a 2-dimensional space, regardless of how many 2D platformers I play. As a result, what we find is a situation where when somebody says 5-dimensional space, they either have no idea what they're talking about, which I believe is the case here, or they know that it's woo, and they just like how it sounds and they use it. I feel like here we have somebody who doesn't understand that 5-dimensional space is just a concept that we can't really grapple with. I feel like that's the case. I could be wrong.
Past time doesn't exist. So if you're asking for an event that's going to happen in the future, yes or no, the pendulum, your higher self already knows.
Your higher self is the 5th dimension. Your self does not exist in the 5th dimension. Your self exists here. The 5th dimension would be a separate plane, just as far as I understand, there's not a version of me that exists in a one-dimensional plane, unable to move, unable to do anything. That's not a thing. You conceptually exist in this plane.
Event that's going to happen in the future, yes or no, the pendulum, your higher self already knows if it's going to happen or not, because it exists in a higher plane, a higher dimension. It can see down into the 3rd dimension and isn't restricted by time. So that's why these pendulums are really great and really efficient. The most important thing, and this is called dowsing, by the way, when you ask it a question and it moves, that's called dowsing.
Dangers of woo, dowsing, future episode. Here we are.
And it's just a skill that you have to keep working on and keep sharpening.
Wait, no, hold on. If the skill is clearing your mind and then holding your hand out, that is not a skill that requires sharpening. Unless, of course, you are ADHD or you have some other cognitive problem that forces your brain to never stop thinking of things. It's not a sharpening skill to clear your mind and then just hold a rock out in front of you. That's a thing that a 2-year-old can do. And they can do it on the first try fairly easily. According to string theory, the quantum universe is made up of 9 or 10 dimensions. Well, string theory isn't a scientific theory, for one. And also, if you ask a string theorist what string theory is, if you get 10 string theorists in a room, you will get a different answer from each string theorist. There's no one unified string theory, so I don't hold a lot of credence by string theory. I really don't. However, if you want to talk to somebody about string theory, Atheist Edge, who was in the chat earlier, I believe they're still in. But Jim Hall from Atheist Edge is a string theory fan. So he might be able to have a fun conversation with you. It's not my wheelhouse.
Just like anything, sometimes you'll not really get a clear answer, or it's also people get tripped up and they ask it way too many questions at once.
Wait. If the instructions are, as an example, let me find. You know what? Don't ask why I have this here. Let's do a thing. We're going to ask the magical Epic Mickey GameStop case. Epic Mickey GameStop case. Am I going to eat bacon and eggs for breakfast tomorrow? Oh, looks like a yes. Epic Mickey, will I have diarrhea tomorrow? Fuck. That's basically all this is. So let's repeat what she said real quick.
Or it's also people get tripped up and they ask it way too many questions at once.
Literally, if the instructions are ask it one question at a time. So, will my channel get deleted by YouTube tomorrow? Fuck you, shit. That's where we are. If it's waiting for it to do the thing, every time you ask it, then if somebody is so... I know it's going to sound really weird because I'm a cis male, and one of the stereotypes for us is that we don't listen to instructions. But if the point of this is to ask it one question and then it gives you an answer, then it would behoove the person who is doing the dowsing to ask it a single question, correct? If that's the case, then why would we have a situation where somebody's asking it multiple questions? Would they literally be sitting there, you know what, I guess I don't have my Epic Mickey case now. I threw it away. It's been thrown away. So you know what? We're just randomly gonna be okay. Bayonetta 2 for the Wii U. Question for you. Are you a video game case? Are you also a basket case? Is Ken Ham insane? Will Kent Hovind die tomorrow? Is Eric Hovind the best grifter of all time? It gets confused, apparently. That's what we're dealing with here. It seems to me that if you just ask it a single question, it should be able to function just fine. We know it's not going to function, but still. Zero Slash says, why do you have a Wii U? Well, as it turns out, I am what you would call a Nintendo fan. Literally just has this shit lying around. Also have a GameCube controller lying around. But what I'm saying is my office is not fully set up, so some of my stuff that is supposed to be props are just sitting on my desk right now. They're supposed to go behind me, but we live in a world where my office is not complete, so they're just kind of sitting on my desk. I'm sorry. Nobody should have a Wii U. They must all be burned. I disagree. Pikmin 3 only exists on the Wii U, and Pikmin 3 is a pretty damn good game. Xenoblade Chronicles X also exists on the Wii U exclusively currently, and that's also a pretty damn good game. And if you tell me that it's not a good game, I'm going to sick Elma on you, because that's a very good character. So, the more I watch, the more I think I should have made a Woo channel. Far more money and far less research. You know, I think the Wii U was a mistake, but I also think that it's a fun console. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. I still play my Wii U every now and again. Splatoon 1 exists on it. And Splatoon 1 has the best Octavius fight. Splatoon 2's Octavius fight is not as good as Splatoon 1's Octavius fight. Sorry. I'm just going to throw it out there right now. 3 must-have games for the Switch. 3 must-have games for the Switch. Super Smash Brothers. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Breath of the Wild, obviously. If you are a fan of the Mario series, Mario Odyssey is up there. If we're talking only exclusives, then Mario Odyssey. If we're talking non-exclusives, I have spent the majority of my time on my Switch, I'm not going to lie, on Enter the Gungeon. Although there's also an argument to be had for Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, because it's the last Monster Hunter game that utilizes the old-school Monster Hunter system. And it's good, and it has online play, and it's nice and solid. So, that's those are my picks. Resident Evil 4 for the Switch was a mistake. Sorry. You do not make me pay $10 more for Resident Evil 4 again, and then not include gyro controls, when Nintendo and Resident Evil have gone pretty hand in hand with exclusive control options for years, specifically with RE4. So let's not do that. Nielsen says, will you get the new Pokemon games when they come out? Of course. The only question is, are you a shield guy or a sword guy? But no, that's an of course thing. I have Let's Go Eevee, and I'm thoroughly underwhelmed with it. I think that it's the right step forward. I just think I would have liked that step forward on a new game as opposed to a remake of Red and Blue, because we don't need more remakes of Red and Blue. But besides the point, I think that I'm happy with the future Pokemon might have on the Switch. So we shall see. Boy, am I still asexual if I like fictional characters. Don't have to desire to have sex with anyone. Asexual does not mean that you cannot feel attraction. The attraction need not be sexual. Like, that's just a thing. Also, there was a person up north, /top 3 waifus. Is this something we can narrow down to, like, a single genre, or a single game, or a single show, or something? Is this just top 3 of all time? Because, like, that's a difficult thing for me to do. Kadama says, I thought Pokemon was dead, but I'm looking forward to the new game. Pokemon never got a chance to fully die. It really didn't. It tried once upon a time to die, but it didn't. But I guess, Zero, if we're going with top 3 of all time, I guess Cynthia, champion of the 4th and 5th generations for Pokemon, is up there. I may as well be a total fucking weeb and throw in a Vocaloid, so Luca. And then Yuffie from Final Fantasy VII. I completely skirted away from League of Legends for that. I could have stuck strictly with League if I wanted to. There we go. Kitsune Cavalier says, a question. Sure, I would like to know what the question is. And whilst you are typing your... Vivian says, favorite Pokemon title. Favorite Pokemon title for me... Black and White. I think Black and White rank as my favorite. Maybe tied with Gold and Silver. I think Gold and Silver took all the right steps forward with Pokemon. And then I think Black and White took a lot of the right steps forward as well, especially in storytelling. Because Black and White handles things like creating a cult. It handles things like what it feels like to be locked in a room with someone who could abuse you. It handles topics like animal abuse. It handles all kinds of like really adult themes, and it handles them responsibly, which is something that no other Pokemon game can lay claim to. Kitsune Clever says, are you a sword guy or hammer guy? Answer, hammer guy. Yeah, given my channel, I can't deny that. Nielsen says, the Black and White anime sucks. The Pokemon anime has sucked since the Indigo Plateau. I'm sorry. The Indigo series managed to step into dark territory every once in a while, and so it was actually worth watching into adulthood. The Pokemon series past then has become very stale. It doesn't go in any forward... There's no forward momentum with the anime now. It's just going through the motions of Ash never being able to stop being a fucking 10-year-old. So, I'm not a fan of what's happened with the anime. I wish the anime would have gone the route that Yu-Gi-Oh! Did, where the end of every generation would lead to a new protagonist there, so we could actually see a character story, not just be a flat arc. That would be cool. But unfortunately, that's not what we got with the Pokemon anime. We got Ash Ketchum, the sitcom, forever and always. Alex Irvin says, I'm a little bit far behind. That's what you meant. You were talking about Pokemon. Yes. X and Y was neat in that it was the first 3D Pokemon game, but I wouldn't say that it was neat past that. I found X and Y to be kind of boring, actually. Team Flare sounded interesting until it ended with the main villain turning full Doc Ock and just like maniacally cackling at you, and then he stopped being interesting. Especially after Black and White had N as a villain, and N was possibly one of the most multi-layered and interesting characters the Pokemon series has ever seen. See, I know. X and Y are not bad, but I don't like them terribly much. That would be awesome coming from someone who hasn't watched the later Yu-Gi-Oh! Gens after the first. If I could offer you a suggestion, seriously, it sounds weird. Go watch Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I shit you not. Go watch 5Ds. That is what I imagine when I think of a good Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. I feel like it's actually a better show than the original. I hate saying that, but I feel like that's the case.
Just stick to like a few questions a day. Don't overwork the pendulum or yourself, because you won't get as clear of a result. Just ask it a few questions at a time, and always cleanse it in the outside in the moonlight or in the sunlight. I like to cleanse things in the sun. But yeah.
Why would you have to cleanse it? Is there a buildup of dark energy that it gets, like the Black Star Dragon Balls and Dragon Ball GT? Because, if we live in the reality where that's canon, I'm really sad. Zero Slash says, how dare you prefer a particular season more than the original? You know what? I'm sorry, but, the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Show was good. It's a legitimately good show. However, it has its very slow points. And its slow points are really, really slow. Like the world tournament that Kaiba hosts in order to get back his good standing in the stock market. That's a legitimate plot line. And the animation budget for it was bad. It was low. So no, I didn't like that. However, practically everything else about it was fine. I really did enjoy it. 5Ds, on the other hand, 5Ds literally goes into why the main protagonist is an atheist as one of the plot points. I'm not even kidding you. It is interesting to see. 5Ds has a lot of like anti-religious subtext, which is really strange, but it's there. Edward never got into Yu-Gi-Oh show in DBZ, although I liked the one girl who's like 18. Oh yeah, Android 18. Aaron Edwards says, my only real introduction to DBZ was Xenoverse 1 and 2. I mean, whatever method you get into Dragon Ball Z is fine. I would just suggest going and watching Dragon Ball Kai, because that's a really nice, condensed way to watch Dragon Ball Z without having to waste all of your time on a very, very long shonen. Ugh. But that said, let's continue her video. There's only like 30 seconds left.
It's really, really, really special and a good method for doing these types of things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys learned something from it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
I'm curious. What is the view count on your episodes usually? Because you have 15,000 subscribers. But it looks like... So we got 5.5K, 1.3674. So it seems your usual is under 1,000. How long have you had your channel? Like... I can't see that. We're just gonna do a social blade. No, we're not. It's not gonna work. I wish it would. Now, how does your channel stay alive at... Oh, it looks like her channel's been up for a year, so a little less than mine. Her early videos seem to have gotten 4.7, 3.7K, so that's a respectable amount for that. But then she has one video with 57,000 views and another one with 19,000 views. Called How I Program Reality and Why I Stopped Drinking Fluoride. Oh dear. That's interesting. Also, speaking of cleaning energy crystals, remember when Pokemon did a game featuring Dark Lugia and everyone made sure to never remember it? Look, if we're going to have a conversation about Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, it needs to be noted that that was the first time we got an actual 3D RPG for Pokemon. It's just not... Well, Gale of Darkness wasn't. Coliseum was. But still, same idea. There's a 1.1 million view one too. Where? No, there's not. You know, there's not a 1 million view video. Sorry for the yawn. No, all of her videos are like 1,000 views, except for those couple of ones here. Why I Stopped Drinking Fluoride and Subliminals Explained. Right before the 50K one. Oh! That explains why you have 15,000 subscribers with almost no viewership. How do you make one viral video and not capitalize on it? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. How I changed my facial bone structure with tongue posture. No, tongue posture doesn't change bone structure. I just tried. That's awkward. All right. Next on the agenda, we have... Is it going to load? Or is it going to be a white screen of doom? There it is. This dude. Who here is familiar with Steven Crowder? This video has some very interesting things in it. I haven't seen the whole thing. I saw up to the point where he said the interesting things, and that made me want to do it. So, let's take a look.
Steve Stevenson, the Cleveland shooter, I don't know if you shot himself after a brief pursuit in Pennsylvania.
Oh, just so you guys know, the video is called "Does Christianity Form Western Morality?"
I want to get into something here because the family of the man who was murdered in cold blood actually, I think, surprised Anderson Cooper with a response to a question. And I think this ties into a larger issue. We see this a lot online, so I want to try and handle this tactfully. I don't want to alienate people. I don't expect you to agree with everything that I'm saying or everything that they're saying. But this divide right now between new atheism and traditional Christianity, I think this is illuminating.
There's just a divide between atheism and Christianity in general. It's because atheism is antithetical to monotheism. Seems pretty normal. Neil says, "Not Crowder. He makes me angry." He makes me angry too. I don't like this guy.
Yeah, and I would take away the most where my father is. He taught us about God, how to fear God, how to love God, and how to forgive.
Yes.
And each one of us forgive the killer, the murderer.
You do.
We want to wrap our arms around him.
We
yes.
absolutely do. We don't. I honestly can say right now that I hold no animosity in my heart against this man.
It should be noted that the killer shot himself in this story, so maybe just maybe you wouldn't be feeling the same way if he was still alive. I'm not saying that would be the case, but I am saying that if he were still alive, I'm fairly certain that he would actually not be receiving these same accolades from you.
Because I know that he's a sick individual. I know that, because of his sickness, whatever evil overtook him that caused him to do this to my dad is not him. It wouldn't be something he would typically do. And I promise you, I could not do that if I did not know God. If I didn't know him as my God and my Savior, I could not forgive that man.
You say that, but trust me, forgiveness is not something that only the Christian can do. This is a thing that the atheist can do. This is a thing that the pagan can do. This is a thing that the Muslim can do. This is a thing that literally everyone of every religious faith, including the religious nons, can do.
Wow. Powerful words from a family, whether you agree with him or not. I know some people are going to, listen, there's no more justice. The man shot himself in the head. And don't confuse what I'm about to say with being an
There is justice. He's dead. He took life and his life is gone. The justice could not be dealt out by the people who deserve to deal out the justice, but it is dead. He is gone. Functionally, the thing that you would have wanted to happen to him after this, it has happened. It sucks that it couldn't happen through the proper judicial system, but it still happened.
advocacy for mercy in place of justice. That's certainly not it. But, we see this a lot. We've had Dinesh D'Souza on, and we've had Sargon, and we've had pretty brilliant Christian apologist theologians on, and we've had pretty...
Say that again.
And don't confuse what I'm about to say with being an advocacy for mercy in place of justice. That's certainly not it. But, we see this a lot. We've had Dinesh D'Souza on, and we've had Sargon, and
we've had next D'Souza, we've had Sargon, we've had brilliant Christian apologists on. If your metric for a good atheist to have on a Sargon of Akkad, your metric is fucking awful. Because Sargon is fucking awful. When you have successfully put yourself in a situation where you are a person who has managed to cause 80% of the political party you have joined to leave their seat or to lose their seats in office, and you have made it to where 20 of the most prominent members in your political party have ran to Brexit, you have fucked up. You have done something so horribly stupid, it cannot be fixed. That is what Sargon has done. Sargon is not a good example of an intellectual or an atheist or anything for you to have on your show. Just saying. Sargon is a fucking moron.
I think this is pretty important to see, because there's this idea, first off, that religions are the cause of all wars, right?
Nielsen says, did you speed him up? Yes, I did. Okay, so is religion the cause of most war? It doesn't have to be. I don't think any argument rests on whether or not that's the case.
Right, you hear that a lot. Let's do away with that. That's not even close to true. Of the 1,763 wars waged over the course of human history that we can measure, only 123 have been classified as...
Okay, so first of all, I want you guys to look at the editor for this article here. I understand that looking at the source and saying that the truth value is based on the source of this is, in fact, the genetic fallacy. I'm not saying that the article is or isn't true based on the authorship. I am saying that this 2012 article by Robin Schumacher was edited by the one and only Matt Slick. I just, if anybody here is familiar with Matt Slick, he is the Christian apologist known most famously for the tag argument. He is also the Christian apologist known very famously for saying that the cartridges in Pokemon have demons trapped in them that will escape and infect your child. This is not a person I would be going to for any type of academic study. This is not a person I would be going to for any type of truth. This is a person I would be going to if I want to laugh and nothing more. Like, that's... I don't understand. Okay. Continuing. Also, Drag Worker says in the chat, I want to thank you for changing my perspective on some social issues. I'm curious as to what those are.
being fought over a religious cause. Let's look at some of the modern wars in case people don't...
Yeah, no. Let's see here. Matt Slick. Matt Slick on Pokemon. Pokemon. What is it? Carm.org. Carm, by the way. Oh, fucking... I didn't even think of this.
Do away with that. That's not pretty important to see because
Let's look at... no, Crowder. Do not enlarge.
there's this idea, first off, that religions are the cause of all wars, right? You hear that a lot.
Do not
away with that. That's not even
enlarge.
close to
Why is it? Okay. So, can we just point out that the Carm article here, the myth that religion is the number one cause of war, this is on Carm. This is created by, in 2012, 4/22/2012, by Robert Schumacher, edited by Matt Slick. Now, what Steven Crowder is going to do here is he's going to show multiple sources, and these multiple sources are going to confirm his bias, as it were.
Of the 1763 wars...
Do you see what he did here? Do you see what he did? He linked the same source twice.
that religions are the cause of all war.
We have Is Religion the Cause of All War by Rabbi Alan Lurie. This is in 2012. It was written in 2010. I'm not familiar with Rabbi Alan Lurie. He's not a person who I am particularly familiar with. But let's do a thing. Let's check Crowder sourcing for this. Let's see. Is it Alan Lurie? Rabbi, who are you? He's an ordained rabbi, teaches prayer services. He's a rabbi who believes in Zeus, which is strange because that would make you a monolateralist, I want to say. Either a monolateralist or a henotheist, which is different. You know what? Let's see. Is there any other stuff here? No? Nothing. This guy does not have a lot of documentation on him at all. He's had a 30-year career as a licensed architect and is currently executive vice president at DataGrid, a New York City data center developer. He's an ordained rabbi, teaching and leading prayer services and writing on issues of faith and religion. This combination of meeting the demands of the business while attending to the needs of the spirit gives him both insight into and access to a diverse community. He's also the author of 5-Minute Mondays, Unexpected Fulfillment. His wife, Shianra, is a cantor, singer, and accomplished songwriter, and they live in Rye, New York. That's neat and all, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot about him. That's not much. Yeah, no, there's not a whole lot of information on him. That's sad. I would have liked if there was more. But what are you going to do, I guess? Rabbi who believes in Zeus. Okay, so here we are. Humans have worshipped thousands of gods throughout the ages. Which of these does this discussion refer to? There are two assumptions. First, not all religious people are convinced that they have it right. Oh, second, I do believe in Zeus. No, I don't think that there's a huge bearded guy dressed in a toga sitting in a palace and out in the sky. Such a literal view. Okay, so he views him in more of a... Okay, that's just freaking monolateralism. That's fine. He's a monolateralist rabbi. That's not terribly neat. That's just kind of interesting, I guess. Yeah, Zero Slash is monolateralist. That sounds very monolateralist to me, which is very tangential to henotheism. No, that's not something that. Okay, so Confucianism. So Confucianism is actually built on an ancient religious foundation, and it establishes societal values. Confucianism itself is, in fact, it can be both a philosophy and a religion. So, no, it can be both. It can also be known as Ruism, but it is a humanistic and rationalistic religion. So, you know, it can be classified as both philosophy and religion. Pirate Kitty says, what is a monolateralist? A monolateralist is someone who is a monotheist, whilst also... my brain is breaking right now. A monolateralist is someone who worships a single god, views that god as the supreme creator of everything, but also finds that there can be other gods. They do not deny the existence of other gods. Henotheism is quite similar. So if I were to not put my foot in my mouth and I actually Google this, no results found for monolateralism. Weird. Yeah, it's... So the Thing Atheist actually has a thing on it, which is neat. But there seems to be less information on monolateralism and possibly more information on henotheism, which is the adherence out of one particular god out of several, especially by a family, tribe, or group. So if I were a Christian and believed that God was not the only God, there was in fact a pantheon of gods, I would be a henotheist. I am serving the one, and I view the one as the one worth serving. The other ones are tangential. Anywho, moving into the next bit from Crowder. So we can't do a whole lot on Rabbi Alan Lurie.
Let's do it with that. That's not even
but
true.
we have the first link here. The Myth That Religion is the Number One Cause of War by Robin Schumacher. 4/22/2012, edited by Matt Slick.
Of the
and then his next source is The Myth That Religion is the Number One Cause of War by Robin Schumacher, edited by Matt Slick on 4/22/2012. Because, of course, we would link the same thing twice. Is Pokemon dangerous? So, here's what Matt Slick said about the Pokemon card game. He said, Pokemon is potentially dangerous. It conditions the child that plays the game into accepting occult and evolutionary principles. Haunter can hypnotize and eat a person's dreams and drain their energy. Abra reads minds. Kadabra emits negative energy that harms others. Ghastly induces sleep. Gengar laughs at people's fright. Nidoran uses poison. The psychic types of Pokemon is amongst the strongest in the game. Charmander, Haunter, Ivysaur, Kadabra, and many more evolve. The children are taught to use these creatures to do their will by invoking colored energy cards, fights, and commands. Much of it is reminiscent of the occult and Eastern mysticism. How? Anywho. More information. One observer of children playing the game said the children would afterwards mimic the game by summoning the Pokemon to attack others. This is occultic. No, it is not. That is LARPing. LARPing is not occultic. Pokemon are summoned to do battle and protect. This is equivalent to sorcery. No, it is not, because Pokemon are not summoned. They are in mechanical balls that you throw. It is functionally no different than having a sword you pull out of a sheath. The difference is the sword is alive. Earth, wind, fire, and water are frequent element themes found in pagan religions, witchcraft, Wicca, and are used heavily in Pokemon. Yes, and Earth is used. Earth, wind, fire, and water are also used predominantly and tracked predominantly by construction companies. Earth is moved. Wind is something that is checked for, especially when trying to lay very easily moved things like tarps. Fire is something that is accounted for, especially when you're dealing with demolition. And water is something that you have to account for whenever you are waterproofing something at all times. I guess that means that construction companies are witchcraft. Sorry, Matt Slick. No, this is stupid. This is absolutely fucking stupid. But of course, this is Matt Slick. What do we expect? And of course, we have Steven Crowder linking the same link twice for no fucking reason.
Wars waged over the course of human history that we can measure. Only 123 have been classified as being fought over a religious cause. Let's look at some of the modern wars in case people don't believe me. The American Revolution, the French Revolution.
Okay, so we're going to do a thing here. Number of religious wars. 23 have been classified to involve a religious cause, accounting for less than 7% of all wars. That at least seems to be true. So I can at least say that that is something that is somewhat true. Let me see if I can fact check a little more. Yes, the true religion has been a major feature in some historical wars. The Quran. Okay, this is a fucking... This is just for Islam apologetics. Interesting. So, here's the issue that I actually find. So, does religion need to be the cause of all wars for it to be a problem? No. In fact, actually, it being a cause for only 123 wars is part of a categorically problematic way of looking at things. If we're looking at only wars, specifically wars, as our category, then we are going to find that many wars are fought not over religious ideals, but over economic motives. However, what is the definition of war? It's a state of armed conflict between different nations or different groups within a nation or state. War versus conflict. I'm pretty sure conflict is a fight between armed troops. War is a state of war and hostility. So you can have a single fight and have that be ended quickly, like just a single slaughter on a village, for instance, and it would not necessarily be a war. Do we have information on how many religious conflicts there have been, categorically separate to war? Many... And no, we do not have data for that. We only have data for wars. So, given that that's the case, we can't actually come to a conclusion here, because again, by only mapping it to war, we are ignoring every little possible conflict. For instance, there's been a conflict recently between, I can't remember where this is, but I actually have this in a very older video. There was a conflict a few years ago involving Buddhists and Muslims, but this is something that has not been labeled as an all-out war, as far as I understand. But it's no less a thing that's happening. There are people that are dying, and there are wars where fewer people have died. So it's really weird to only talk about war here and not talk about any potential conflict. Granted, again, we don't have the numbers for any potential conflict, but if war is the only working word, then I guess Crowder is right on a technicality.
The American Civil War, World War I, the Russian expansion of communism, World War II, North Korea, Vietnam. None of these were religious wars. Now, people who fought them were some people who were leaders in those wars were deeply ideological. Well, of course, you see it with people like Stalin, who was deeply atheistly ideological.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Are you really going to do it?
It wasn't ideology. Atheism there was an ism. You may not like to hear it, but his atheism really was borderline religious in his practice and certainly in his imperialist attempt to expand it.
Okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Religious apologists, particularly Christians, are huge fans of what Dawkins would call the atheist atrocities fallacy. If we look at anyone who was ostensibly considered an atheist, they will use their atheism as a method of undermining anything possibly that the atheist would say. Oh, Hitler was an atheist, therefore blah, 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 blah. What we don't see usually is how much of Stalin's views were rooted in atheism versus overt anti-theism. You can have a Christian who's an anti-theist. Like this is a thing you can have, just like you can have a Christian who's a mesotheist. So, what he's talking about here, I believe, is, and if I'm wrong, let's find out, the USSR anti-religious campaign. This was in 1928 to 1941. Joseph Stalin criticized his party for failure to produce more active and persuasive anti-religious propaganda throughout this time. He wanted to disseminate atheism. This was a result of his overt anti-theism. He was anti-religious. Not all atheists are anti-religious, and in fact, a good portion of them in the modern day are not anti-religious. So, I'm sorry, I can't necessarily grant this point. I wish I could, but it doesn't seem that it doesn't seem that he didn't believe in God so hard that he had to slaughter people. It's not necessarily where we are. Sarah Gardner says the conflict was in Sri Lanka. Okay, fair enough. But clearly veganism kills and doesn't kill at the same time. Yeah, I guess. So it's really, really weird whenever this is brought up as a point, because you can't strictly say that Stalin did this because of his atheism. Stalin was an atheist, and he was a person who wanted everyone else to think as he did, otherwise he would kill them for wrongthink, and he did this with everybody involving practically everything, not just his atheism. I don't think you can really stem this to being he was atheist, therefore he slaughtered people. It's not a really good way to go about this.
So it's important to note that you can't remove the faith from the individual, but you can't also say because these individuals were religious that the wars were fought over religion. They can be fought over territory, they can be fought over resources. That's important to note. Our foundational principle.
Yeah, I agree with the wars, which is why I have the distinction between war and conflict.
Well, certainly in Western culture, come from Christianity. Mm-hmm. Milo talked about that.
Milo in Neapolis? Really? That's your source? Just like using Carm twice? Okay.
I mean, you obviously look at people like C.S. Lewis or you go back to Chesterton. These people talked about how if it's all situational ethics, if there is no foundation, that there is moral decay. I've heard compelling arguments.
Situational ethics. I really don't like that term. I have a reason for that. So let's look up his term. Situational ethics takes into account particular context of an act when evaluating it ethically, rather than judging it in accordance to absolute moral standards. Okay. It is a contradiction to God's divine law and anything in that way. I find that when we're talking about stuff like wars, we're not really dealing with situational ethics so much as we're dealing with relativistic morality. We're dealing with morality being something that is for a group of people as opposed to ethics, which is more towards an individual. This is something that a group is sharing based on their geographical location, based on their time period. These are things that I think make a lot more sense for this argument, not situational ethics. But Crowder's no shit about philosophy, so what the fuck ever.
on both sides of that. Dinesh D'Souza, for example, argues that if you look at the totality of human history, basically all technological innovation in history that we know today bloomed after the spread of Christendom. And there's a counter-argument there to be made that, well, that's
Yes, but there's no argument to be made that it was because of Christendom. And in fact, actually, there are several technologies that are hindered by Christendom, especially here in the United States. If we're talking about stem cell research, that has been very, very opposed by religious right-wing people. So I don't know what your argument is here, Stephen. Doesn't seem to be a really cogent one.
That's also during the great empire of China. Anyways, very interesting. And very interesting, by the way, the ideologies, if you look at people who are on these sides of the war, for example, deeply Christian, look at the way the Americans treated prisoners of war compared to the Japanese or compared to the Russians. This idea, I want to tackle a little bit. Atheists say, if you need a book, societies don't need religion to dictate morality. If you need a book to tell you to not kill someone from some spaghetti monster in the sky, you're crazy. You're a bad person. Okay, you know what? Let's take that. Maybe do not kill is an international language of morality. Maybe most people know that stealing is wrong.
It's not a maybe thing. That's a pretty ingrained sociological thing. That's been pretty well understood by people of multiple religions. Tend to find this. There are multiple religions in the world that find that murder is wrong and it's part of their edicts. It's not a uniquely Christian thing.
Let's say that none of those come from societal conditioning or in Western culture, from conditioning through deeply Christian philosophy. Okay, let's go with that.
Now, deeply religious philosophy doesn't need to be Christian. That's the thing.
But the idea here, the moral idea of forgiving your enemies, of showing love to your enemies, that is not something that people hold to be intrinsically moral. That is not something that a society could possibly embrace if it weren't a Christian society. Now, you may not...
Are you sure about that? I think I know where he's going with this. I think I've seen up to this point in the video, so let's just move on where we're going to go from here. This is going to get weird.
I think that's a good moral. Muslims don't. LaVeyan Satanists don't. We'll get to that. But that is a
Okay. This is gonna be interesting. Watch the way he does this.
distinctly Christian moral premise. Love your enemies. That is not something that human beings do naturally on their own. So yeah, you do need a kind of a flying spaghetti monster in the sky to tell you that, you know what? Your instinct is to hate your enemies. Your instinct is to seek revenge and vengeance. Justice is right. Serve justice. I'll give you a board plan. I'll give you a blueprint how to serve justice. But do not hate and act in revenge. That's a distinctly Christian idea. It goes against human nature. Luke 6:27 says, but to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Luke 6:32 through 35 says, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even
Okay, so he's cherry-picking Bible verses. And I'm using cherry-picking not because he just grabbed Bible verses that he agreed with. I'm saying he's cherry-picking because of what he's going to grab from the Quran next.
sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. This is something else that a lot of atheists say, well, religions are the cause of all wars. There's also not an equivalency between religions, because you contrast the overarching premise of love your enemies.
Do it.
All right, justice
Do
is
it,
mine,
Stephen. Shoot yourself in the
but love
fucking
your-
foot.
Treat them well. As you see this family, that is an incredibly powerful... The reason that's news, the reason people are talking
Do
about
it.
it is because it goes against every single instinct that we have as human beings. And I don't necessarily think that's wrong. You see someone shoot your father, you see someone kill your family, it's natural to want to take the issue into your own hands. And I don't necessarily think that it's immoral for that man to be punished severely. But having a book, a moral guideline say, hey, don't act on exactly what it is you want to do, that cannot occur in a society that does not have some kind of foundational principles, in our case biblical. And let's contrast that as an equivalency with a religion like Islam.
All right. So we're going to contrast with Islam. We're going to go to the Quran. And what do we find there?
On verse 545, life for life, eye for eye, nose for nose, ear for ear, tooth for tooth, and wounds equal for equal. Took the eye for an eye a little bit further. Down the trail, that one.
Okay. So you want to say that the eye for an eye is something that is in the Quran, and that's not a Christian principle. Matthew 5:38 through 42. Just so you're aware. We're going to go ahead and look up this exact Bible verse. We're going to play Bible study today, everybody. You've heard it was said, eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to the other cheek also. If anyone wants to see you take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. Okay, now, fair enough. Bible actually does seem to have that there. There should be, if memory serves, should actually be another eye for an eye. I believe this is in places other than Matthew. Is it only in Matthew? Is Steven Crowder right? Is he actually right here? He might be. I may have foot and mouthed. Ah, nope, never mind. I didn't foot and mouth. Exodus 21:23 through 25. But if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. Leviticus also says anyone who injures their neighbor is to be injured in the same manner. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The one who has inflicted the injury must suffer the same injury. I thought Crowder had maybe been correct, but then we find here in the Bible that it literally has those in its fucking passages. And anybody who wants to be the pedantic person, if anybody wants to be the pedantic person that says new covenant, new covenant, new covenant, and I understand what you're saying, however, what we find predominantly is that we don't have as many new covenant, new covenant, new covenant people in America. We have people who take the entire Bible as literal because none of them know how to exegete properly. Matthew 5:38 is where we get a new covenant version of this, where it's a little more tame, and it says that, hey, eye for an eye, maybe not be such a great idea. Point is, though, had Crowder not cherry-picked, had he actually juxtaposed the verses that are most similar to one another as an actual comparison, he would find that both texts mirror the same exact fucking thing.
We have the abridged version. Here's one from Surah, notably verse 244. Then fight in the cause of Allah and know that Allah heareth and knoweth all things. Let's look at historical.
Okay. Fight in the cause for Allah and know that he heareth and knoweth all things. That doesn't seem... Okay, so... I am fairly certain that we will find something on that in here. Why is this okay? So we have fighting for Allah in the Quran, but in the Bible we have Jeremiah 51:20. You are my work, my club, my weapon for battle. With you I shall shatter nations. With you I shall destroy kingdoms. How do you destroy an entire kingdom? Well, genocide's probably a good way. That's probably the easiest way. So, is the Bible really any better or different in this regard? No, not really. I would argue that's not the case. If we actually compare the verses that are most similar between the Quran and the Bible, we find lots of similarities. And in some, the Quran comes out on top. And in some, the Bible comes out on top. But this whole, the Bible's infinitely better than the Quran because reasons, even though the Quran is literally just the third Star Wars book in the Bible trilogy, is just weird to me.
We talked about this, Gerald. Yeah. Christianity, when it started spreading, right? This is a time where if you were a first martyr, Stephen, if you were a known Christian, you were killed. Okay? That's when Christianity boomed at that point. And Christianity, during that period, was spread by word of mouth. Okay? No.
Yes, like every other religion. Like every religion was spread by word of mouth or by tradition at that point. And not strictly that, because Peter founded a church. Peter and Saul, or Paul, both founded churches. They traveled and they sent letters and they did things other than word of mouth. That's very awkward.
Known oppressors, you profess to be a Christian, dead. Spread by word of mouth.
Okay. So... So there were 2 centuries where Christians were persecuted. And we have... What am I looking for? Christianity's growth rate over time. Do we have any documentation for for first century on? I do not think we do. Sorry for the yawn, guys. No, I don't think we actually have any data for that. So that's weird. Malkavian, the Quran. If the Quran is the 3rd Star Wars book, the Book of Mormon is the Star Wars Christmas special. So, no, were Christians persecuted? Yes. Did it flourish in spite of the persecution? Yes. I don't see what the point is.
Now contrast that with Islam, which when it was created, there were no known direct oppressors during its greatest expansion period.
Also, Christianity's greatest expansion period was during the time of its persecution, when it was mostly landlocked to the Middle East. No. Christianity was spread primarily by the Roman Empire once it was adopted by Constantine, as far as I remember. So, maybe my history's wrong, but the way that Crowder's framing this is really fucking weird. And I don't think it's a point either. Like, even if he's right, what does it actually mean? What does it actually do for his argument that Christianity forms Western society's morality? Also, Islam's expansion rate, where Phase 1, early caliphs. Within the century of its establishment and the subsequent rapid expansion of the Arab Empire, one of the most significant empires in the world history was formed. For the subjects of the new empire, former subjects of the greatly reduced Byzantine, not much change in practice. The objective of the conquest was mostly of practical nature, as fertile land and water were scarce. Okay, so what we have here is that Christianity formed during Rome's occupation of Judea. As a result, there were oppressed Christians until it was adopted by Rome and then spread by the empire for the empire. What we have with Islam is that they managed to luck out and got spread by the empire for the empire by the early caliphs, which tells me that functionally they both spread the same way. It's just Christianity had the early hiccup of being oppressed. I don't know what that changes here. It doesn't really change a whole lot here at all. Both of them were spread by empires by the sword. I don't see where we're getting anything from. I'm confused, Steven Crowder. Please help me make sense of this for me.
Always spread by the sword.
Yes, the same way Christianity was spread. How did Christianity spread in America? Let's ask the Native Americans how Christianity was spread in America. When it was not spread by the sword, or I guess you got me there, by the musket, it was spread by smallpox. No, Christianity's spread has been violent. That's just kind of a known historical fact. Islam's spread has also been violent. And Sarah Gardner says, was atheism spread by the sword? Every time atheism has been attempted to spread by the sword, it has failed. If you take like Stalin's approach, where he tried to spread it by the sword, if we take his anti-theism and his propensity to make everybody try to think like him, it didn't function very well. Whereas Christianity and Islam get spread by the sword pretty easily.
Islam has only, throughout history, been spread through birth rate because these people copulate like rabbits, or at the tip of a sword. That's how Islam is spread. The main spreading of Christianity was through word of mouth. Gerald, am I incorrect?
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, that's how you can kind of validate the Christian religion as well. People don't die for a cause that isn't real.
Right.
What? What? Say that again.
Incorrect.
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, that's how you can kind of validate the Christian religion as well. People don't die for a cause that isn't real.
Excuse me?
Am I incorrect?
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, that's how you can kind of validate the Christian religion as well. People don't die for a cause that isn't real.
So, in Islam, there is a concept called the Shahid. A Shahid is a Muslim who is killed defending his or her property or land or religious rights. They're considered a martyr after that. In Pakistan, the word that they use for them is Shahid. This is a thing that happens constantly. If all that is required for your cause to be true is its propensity to have martyrs, then Islam has just as many as you do, if not more. That concept of Shahid would not exist if not for the fact that there are martyrs in Islam. So you've just validated Joseph Smith. Mormons died. There was a law that allowed Mormons to be hunted and killed in the United States until recently. You've just validated several you just validated all of heathenry. Because when Christianity was moving north, several pagan heathens were slaughtered. And they died for their beliefs. You're also saying that everyone who died in the Spanish Inquisition, their beliefs must have also been true. Because they wouldn't have died for their beliefs if they weren't right. Okay. Yeah, if your belief system has martyrs, it must be true. Giroslash says, did Crowder just agree that the cause of the Tamil Tigers to violently bring about communism is just? He at least validated that it must be true.
Right. And so you can
Well, the early martyrs who had actually known Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
So, early martyrs that knew Christ. We have Paulogia may disagree with me on this, and in fact, I think Paulogia might know. He does know better than me on this. But as far as I know, we only have documentation of 3 of those, maybe even just 1. We know that, or we to some degree know that Peter was crucified for his beliefs. And Paul was purported to be killed for his beliefs. But we don't have much more than that. So if we go off just that, and I could be wrong, let's say there's 12. Let's say 13 people. Let's say that. The 12 disciples, let's say that they were all martyred. And Paul, even though Paul never knew Christ, we'll go ahead and say that when he had his little road to Damascus incident, he knew. He knew Christ. 13 people. 13 people died. So the all-knowing, all-powerful God of the universe must be real. Crowder just made the argument worse. The argument was already bad when it validated all religions, but when his argument boiled down to 13 people died ever, therefore this thing is true. That made it sound so much fucking worse.
and then kind of going through the system there. But you're right; it's always through conquest and through just having kids into the faith.
Right.
That's the only way it grows.
The rules in Islam.
Having kids into the faith is the only way it grows. Or by the sword. Okay. So yeah. We're gonna look at Catholic birth rates. Majority Catholic birth rates are at 2.1. Majority Protestant birth rates are at 1.9. And Muslim birth rates seem to be at, I'm going to be honest, that was surprising. In many areas of the world, anywhere between 2.6 and 5.6. So yes, no, Muslims have a much higher birth rate than Christians do, unless we're talking about quiverful Christians. That subset aside, it seems that Muslims do have a higher birth rate. So yay! Crowder's half right on something. Neat.
Islam, Gerald knows, is convert. If you don't convert, you're killed or subjected to dimitude with all kinds of taxes, and your rights are removed from yourself. So these are your only three options. That's why there's almost no Islamic charity outside of Islam.
Yeah.
Almost no Islamic charity outside of Islam. There's also almost no American charity outside of America. I don't get why region-specific charity invalidates something.
They don't have a lot of Islamic bake sales going on. They're not going into Haiti at the same rates, or into Africa, helping people, helping create houses. Christian churches creating very...
Do you know why those houses get created by Christian churches, though? It's not because it's out of the happiness of their heart. Typically, it's because by creating those, they can proselytize.
Secular, missionary work, helping people just in the name of Christ. You don't see that from Islam globally, in the name of Islam, to people who aren't Muslim. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen? Maybe that's because most of these relief efforts for places like Haiti are not done by Christians on the whole. They are done by the United States, which you will call a Christian nation. Majority Muslim countries do not have the same wealth that we do, generally speaking. As a result, they don't take part in a lot of these efforts. Also, it seems to be the help and policing of the world also seems to be a very largely American idea. And it just so happens that America's a majority Christian nation. This seems to be a lot of stuff that's stacked up on circumstance, not necessarily anything that's backed up by data that says that these things are necessary corroborates, not just correlates. I don't think that his argument actually goes where he thinks it does.
Again, so we're let's go back down the trail. This is not something that would exist in a society without it being prescribed, the idea of loving your enemies. If you look at other religions, it is not prescribed. And if you look at the results...
Okay, let's look at Quran, Surah 41, verse 33 through 34. All good and evil deeds are not alike. Repel evil with good, and he who is your enemy will become your dearest friend. Quran, Surah 4, verse 94. Do not say to the one who offers you peace, you are not a believer, seeking the spoils in this life, for God has abundant treasure. You used to be like them after all, and then God blessed you. Surah 28:55. And when you hear vain talk, they turn away from it and say, to us our deeds, and to yours peace be to you. We do not seek out the ignorant. Surah 4, verse 90. Exempt those who join a people with whom you have concluded a peace treaty, and those who come to you with hearts unwilling to fight you, nor to fight their relatives. Had God willed, he could have placed them in power over you, and they would have made war on you. Therefore, if they leave you alone, refrain from fighting you and offer you peace, and God gives you no way to go against them. So even if they're your enemy, and they come to you in a way that is somewhat peaceful, you consider them a friend. You do not consider them an enemy. It seems to me that the Quran, in a roundabout way, manages to say some of these same exact things that the Bible is supposed to say, that's supposed to be only for the Bible. Like, let us see here. See Quran 45, Quran chapter 45. No one can forgive without love in their heart. Love in the heart removes hate from the heart and results in forgiveness. Love your enemy and forgive your enemy in the Quran. Love your enemy and forgive your enemy in the gospel. Love your enemy and forgive your enemy in the Torah. Forgive disbelievers, forgive believers, forgive Jews, forgive the killer. This is in Quran, Surah 45, verse 14. So let's do a thing here. Let's look up the actual verse. Do. Yeah, no. That's right. It's highly intentional. To those who have believed that they should forgive who expect not the days of Allah, so forgive the unbeliever, he will recompense the people for what they used to earn. Basically just the same thing as the Christian principle. God will judge them. Don't you do it. Treat them as your friend. This is not a strictly Christian thing. This is not a strictly Christian ideal. But, you know, whatever. Stardust Skeptic says, the Baha'i faith, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Zoroastrianism all have the love your enemy idea as well. Yeah, no, it's almost like we found several fucking verses in the Quran that, not in as many words, still say the same general idea. And it's found in other faiths as well, as confirmed by people who may or may not share those faiths. So, I don't buy what Steven Crowder is selling. I don't.
They are two very different pathways. And if you look at Islam,
No, they're not.
actually has much more similar with Levian Satanism. Now, by the way, not all
No, it does not.
Satanists or Levian Satanism. Levian Satanist, it basically means it's practiced atheistic religion. They don't really believe in God. They sort of see it as mythology, but they believe that the character of Satan is more powerful because they believe that they are their own God. And so the idea of Satan rebelling against God is sort of seen as a parable for Levian Satanists, and they actually like the guy who rebelled against God. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it, not love wasted on ingrates. And that's actually pretty common throughout the history of the world. Before Christ and most places that do not
It's a
involve Christ.
realistic
Again, I don't care if you're an
philosophy.
atheist. We just need to acknowledge the different effects that different religions and worldviews have. The idea of loving your enemy didn't exist.
It's terrible that you would think that these things just come about naturally. It doesn't. Look at kids. Kids who have no social conditioning whatsoever are selfish. They're absolutely out for their own needs. And basically that's humanism. And so you're telling the world that there is no God. You're your own God. Do what you want.
Wait.
I don't care if you're an atheist. We just need to acknowledge the different effects that different religions and worldviews have. The idea of loving your enemy didn't exist.
It's terrible that you would think that these things just come about naturally. It doesn't. Look at kids. Kids who have no social conditioning whatsoever are selfish. They're absolutely out for their own needs. And basically that's humanism. And so you're telling...
Being selfish and out for your own needs is humanism. Humanism. An outlook or system of thought attaching prime importance to humans rather than divine or supernatural matters. Humanistic beliefs stress the potential and value of goodness of human beings, emphasizing common human needs and seeking rational ways of solving human problems. It emphasizes the value and agency of human beings, individually and collectively, and prefers critical thinking as opposed to dogma. What about that says that selfishness is a virtue, which is essentially what his co-host person just said? What about that says that? What in that set of edicts says that that is the case? Those virtues don't seem to be humanistic because they are not in line with common human needs. So, I don't know, Crowder. You don't seem to understand what the you're talking about, but here we are.
The world that there is no God. You're your own God. Do what you want. Well, we've seen what happens in cultures when you do what you want. Bad people...
Yeah, and that's generally what happens in this culture. Doing what you want is part of being an individualistic culture as opposed to a culture that is more, what's the word for it? Not tribalistic, but community-driven. Like, take the difference between the United States and Japan. Japan is a much more community-driven culture, whereas the United States is very individualistic. That's about where we're getting here.
people come to power, millions of people die every single time.
Right. Yeah, and of course, obviously, some people argue, let's preempt this, that some people have used the mantle of Christianity to manipulate and become bad people in power and kill lots of people. That has happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's okay to use that caveat for Christianity, but it's not okay to use the same caveat for Stalin. When it's Stalin, it has to be because of his atheism. But when it's Christianity, some people are bad actors.
But again, if you go back to the founder of the feast, let's go back to Christ, contrast that with Muhammad, contrast that with the ancient Egyptian religions, contrast that with LaVeyan Satanism. It's not the same. And that's why...
Is anyone in here a follower of Ra, Osiris, or any of the other Egyptian gods who can verify what Crowder said? If you can verify that polytheism, specifically Egyptian polytheism, does not contain tenets that would be mirrored by the Bible, like loving your enemy, working towards the common good, things like that. If you can argue that those are things that are not held within Egyptian polytheism, then good luck. But as far as I understand, if you want to have a good afterlife in Egyptian polytheism, you have to contend with Anubis, and Anubis weighs your individual actions and your soul against a feather. And if you don't end up weighing less than the feather, then you get to do some mighty thick burning. You get to be cast into a bad version of the underworld. So when he says something like that, I can only think that there are certain facts, and I'm not an Egyptian polytheist, but some of the things I understand from Egyptian lore don't seem to mesh with what Steven Crowder just said.
These kinds of reports are powerful. Why is it news? Because you go, oh my gosh, would I want to hug someone who murdered my father? You know what? It's incredibly difficult to do. And that's the concept through Christianity of dying to flesh. If you're an atheist, hopefully you're learning, being educated here, just as to what Christians believe. Dying to yourself every day. If you hear that term, it's the meaning of actually not giving in to your basic, even carnal instincts. And you see that here.
Which is a concept in most religions. Usually they have a narrative of transcendence of some kind, which leads to not falling into your base instincts.
That you will find in any society just through happenstance. Hey, if you like this clip, it's taken from the full daily show, available exclusively at louderwithcrowder.com/mug.
No.
Club. That's for Mug Club members because we can't.
I don't want to join your mud club. I don't. It's bad. I don't. Anywho, that's as much as I've got time to get through because I'm getting incredibly tired, and I do not want to fall asleep at the wheel. As much as some of you weirdos probably would want to watch me sleep, which I don't know how I feel about that. Zero Slash, are you going to cover his harassment of Mazda? I would need to do some research into that, but I'm... Oh! Are you talking about the guy who he constantly throws anti-gay slurs at? And has done so for 2 years? That guy? Because if that's the guy you're talking about, I might... It is Pride Month. I do, on the other hand, have some other videos that are Pride Month oriented that I'm going to be doing. Specifically one, we have Bionic Dance in the chat, and I'm going to be doing a thing with Kate. We're going to be doing a collaboration on someone who's made a video that says that Pride Month is stupid. We're in Pride Month. It's time. So, that all said, I am going to do that thing where I finally go to sleep. I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream. I'm going to be doing a lot more of them more often. I'm going to get back into doing my standard content. That's going to pick up mostly next week. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy it as I get it out, and it's good to be back. I can't wait to get the studio set up so you guys can see all the weeb trash behind me like I normally have. Anywho, that all said, hope you guys are having a wonderful night.